There are some questions we will never know the answers to. Some believe that's because there are no answers out there. I believe that there are those not brave enough to ask the questions in the first place. However, bravery is in no short supply in my case, and so I shall lead by example. Today, I'm going to ask the incredibly difficult question: can you make a Pip-Boy out of cardboard?
Stars and stripes!
Hello and welcome to another Carrot Scraps video, and by another, I mean the 66th. So in this video, I am going to detail how I made this thing and the process of preparation and execution, but I'm also going to be somewhat reacting to my own footage, just because it's been so long since I've even interacted with this, little project. So I hope you don't mind. Anyway, let's jump into the video. Let's talk about my ground rules and the backstory. The first and most important rule is that the majority of the Pip-Boy must be made out of cardboard. Painting it and using adhesives do not violate that rule, but any other use of non-cardboard will disqualify me, and I'll get a phone call home to my principal's office, I guess. The second rule is, well, actually, the first rule is the only rule. Don't forget it. Once I had my one and only rule in mind, I had to decide which Pip-Boy I was going to immortalize in hard paper. If you don't know, there are many Pip-Boys featured throughout the Fallout franchise, and while I have my personal favorites, I decided to go with the model I thought would be the simplest to construct in cardboard, because that's what I'm doing today. I'm constructing a cardboard thing. The Pip-Boy 3000 from Fallout 4 was a perfect candidate for cardboardification for several reasons. First of all, I own a physical replica of this particular Pip-Boy that was shipped with certain editions of the original game. So to have an accurate physical model to reference instead of just using Google Images was definitely a huge help to me. The second reason is because, in my opinion, this Pip-Boy presents less challenges in terms of construction. While other models are more angular, which might seem better for cardboard construction, the Pip-Boy 3000 didn't have as many small details, which makes it easier in the long run for me. The small details that did exist on the 3000 seemed possible for me to do with my limited cardboard experience. Lastly, the final rule is to have fun. Just kidding, the final rule is to be perfect and create this cardboard duplicate in perfect symmetry. Perfection! 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 All right, let's start building this thing. First things first, I need to order cat litter because it's the only way to obtain premium cardboard. I also used some Amazon boxes occasionally. When collecting cardboard supplies, I tried to use the thickest cardboard that was still somewhat malleable. Some of the first things I did was make a Sharpie outline of the spots that I had to cut out with a box cutter or scissors, and then I would cut them out when the time was appropriate. I did that for the screen and a lot of the layers that made up the face of the Pip-Boy. I used masking tape to secure a rather large strip of cardboard around my arm, which provided the general shape of the Pip-Boy. I also used masking tape to secure a lot of the Pip-Boy's structural integrity. I chose this tape because I felt it would be the most sturdy while also being the easiest to paint over. In addition, if I made any mistakes with this tape, I could easily walk them back. When necessary, I would use super glue, but that was mostly saved for the smallest details. Now, when approaching this challenge, I wanted to make sure I made almost everything out of cardboard. The only deviation from that criteria was using a number of acrylic paints. The paints I used were various acrylic paints, specifically... Oh, I don't have them. Let me go find them. So first I used some Gax Versatemp heavy-bodied tempera. Then I used some Gax Truehow heavy-bodied acrylic. And lastly, I used some Soho Urban Artistic acrylic. Now, I used various different colors, like here I have titanium white, and then just chrome orange. And what else do I have? And then I have metallic copper. I believe that's the shiny brown that I used. So when painting the Pip-Boy, there were places where I just used a basic color, but a lot of times I was having a lot of fun mixing colors and making slightly different versions of the same color. For example, a lot of the Pip-Boy is this simple brown, but in certain places I mixed it with a silvery brown, so that way it looked a little different. But I hope giving you the names of the paints that I used were somewhat useful for you. And in general, the paints worked really well. I didn't really have any problem with them. When I was originally making this cardboard Pip-Boy, I wanted to be able to have the option of using the app that was made for you to use with the collector's item Pip-Boy. If you were unaware, when this replica Pip-Boy 3000 was released with certain copies of Fallout 4, they released an app so you can use the Pip-Boy with your copy of Fallout 4. Essentially, you could just have a Pip-Boy attached to your arm if you had a smartphone that could use this app. So I kind of wanted to give myself the option to use that app with my cardboard Pip-Boy, but it didn't end up working out that way. I do think I made the opening big enough for the screen of my phone, but the problem was holding the phone in place while wearing it at the same time. So while it can fit my old phone and you can kind of use the app, it wasn't practical, so I made a fake screen as well. When I was making the cardboard screen for the Pip-Boy, I took a rectangle and painted it black, and then when it was time to do the finer details on the screen, I took that rectangle and I put it where it was supposed to be and started painting with it attached. So that way I knew exactly how much would be visible when everything was put together. But I had to be very careful not to get green, bright paint on the edges of the Pip-Boy. This is one of my favorite details. So the tube on the back is just cardboard covered with masking tape on either side. And it's just crazy to me because it's such a simple little thing. It's just cardboard rolled on top of itself with tape on it, but I think the paint really sells it. This is one of my favorite details other than the face of the Pip-Boy. Now on my replica and on the in-game model, there's this little border around the screen that pops up off of the Pip-Boy. And to get that effect in cardboard, I decided to stack cardboard in layers to create depth. Each layer is a slightly or drastically different color than the previous one, and just like that, my Pip-Boy has depth in the face. It sounds like an insult. You have depth in the face. I don't know what it means, but whatever. When it was time to use the super glue to glue things together, I used a sharpened pencil to carefully apply glue to specific areas that I needed it. I don't know if there's a better tool for this. I admit that I was using super glue that was a little old, so I kind of had to shape it with a wooden pencil. But this worked for me, especially for the smaller buttons on the Pip-Boy. And speaking of buttons, certain buttons on the Pip-Boy are just two cardboard circles painted different colors and then stacked on top of each other, with one circle being slightly smaller than the other. And again, it just gives this depth to what is essentially flat, stacked paper, and you can kind of press this little button. It won't go in or anything, but it is raised off of the face of the Pip-Boy. These little buttons are really cool, and I was really happy with how they came out. So honestly, the majority of the Pip-Boy I made rather quickly. However, when it came to the finer details like the lettering and the screen, I spent a long time considering my options. I could either get really detailed, or I could get across the general idea. Eventually, I decided to go for a more simplistic approach. Instead of accuracy, I chose to just convey the idea as best as I could, and I think it came out really well. Another detail that kept me from completing my arts and crafts project more quickly was the knobs and dials of the Pip-Boy. On various different occasions, I considered using materials other than cardboard to create a knob or dial. Anyway, I also considered many ideas that could allow me to twist a cardboard knob. However, in the end, I went with the simplest approach, and I just glued vaguely knob-shaped things onto the Pip-Boy. But don't worry, those things were made of cardboard as well. So please, don't be disappointed in me. I'm already disappointed in myself. On a somewhat similar but mostly different note, while I had all of these paints out, I decided it would be kind of cool if I made my own Nuka-Cola bottle caps. So while I was waiting for things to dry on the Pip-Boy, I would occasionally work on these bottle caps. The first coat of paint turned out really well with the white and the red, but once it came to doing the finer details like the lettering, I kind of gave up, honestly. I either lacked the talent or the appropriate tools to do the lettering exactly the way I wanted it to come out, so I just dropped this part of the project. Who knows, maybe I'll do my own Nuka bottle caps in the future. But you know what? I think we've spent enough time of me talking. From what I can tell, it looks like our Pip-Boy might be finished. So let's take a look at the end result and see how my cardboard Pip-Boy came out. Drum roll, please. Can we get a drum roll, please? Drum roll, please. Kyle. What? So after about 3 days of work, this is the end result. A lot of that time was me waiting for paint to dry and applying second coats of paint, but when all was said and done, this is what it looks like. I actually really like how it came out. Obviously, it's, clearly different than the replica that I have, because it's made of cardboard. That's the first big difference. But generally speaking, I feel like I did a pretty good job on this. But feel free to disagree, let me know how you feel I did in the comments below. Some of the regrets that I have is not having more distinct buttons or knobs or dials. I feel like if I wasn't so dedicated to the cardboard theme, I could have done something interesting there. And honestly, now that I think about it, maybe I could have made something cool with the cardboard limitations. But overall, I think it looks great. My favorite parts, as I've mentioned already, are the 3D face of the Pip-Boy and the cylinder in the back of the Pip-Boy. I also like my little cardboard wire that I just stuck into some masking tape. In the end, this took me forever to finish because, like all things I create, I spend hours working on it until I start to hate myself and the things I created. In full transparency, I had this idea and executed it over a year ago at this point. I finished this in April of 2020 and then haven't had the soul power to finish a video about it until now. I mean, that's just me, what can I say? But now that I've had a lot of time to think about it, I really love the way it came out, and I'm really proud of myself. When I was first working on it, I felt like I needed to be as accurate as possible, but the concessions I made really make me like the end product even more. Some of my favorite parts of this thing are the compromises that I made because it gets across the idea better than making it completely accurate. I really love the pop of orange and green from the meters and the screen on the... Whoa, that rhymed. I really love the pop of orange and green from the screen and the face of the Pip-Boy. I have no idea why I decided to do this. I know there wasn't a real reason other than I like making things out of cardboard, and I have a long history of doing so, but I don't know what specifically inspired me. But I'm glad I did because, again, I am weirdly proud of this homemade Pip-Boy. I would definitely love to do something like this again just because of how happy I am with the end product, but also painting something in 3 dimensions is very cathartic for me. Maybe I should take on, building models instead. If you think you might want to make stuff like this or similar stuff like this in the future, just remember that change and compromise is part of the process and is ultimately a good thing that could make a stronger product in the end. Don't cut corners by any means, but don't be afraid to step back from a project for a while and return later with a new set of eyes. When you return, you might know how you truly feel and know what direction you want to head in. I'm still trying to learn this and trying to take it to heart, but you'd be surprised how much this little skill helps. So yes, to answer everyone's question, to answer everyone's question, you can in fact make a Pip-Boy out of mostly cardboard. I'm just not sure why you or I would want to do that. You would want to, or I don't know why I would want to either, actually. Anyway, that's gonna do it for this video. If for some reason you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like and to subscribe to my channel for more. If you want to watch me play video games live, check me out on Twitch at twitch.tv/carrotscraps, and all my other social media, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram are at carrotscraps as well. I want to thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Why do I keep hearing noises upstairs? Why is there a ghost haunting my house? Cardboard ghost. Cardboard ghost. Cardboard ghost. All right, everybody, that's it. That's it for Cardboard Ghost. Go away.